Hello everyone, welcome to Cheongfuli Weekly Report. Here we bring you the latest China's steel market prices and analysis every week. This week, the tension in Sino-US negotiations has eased somewhat, and steel prices have mainly fluctuated. The spot price of domestic hot-rolled coils remained stable this week, while the price of rebar increased by 10 yuan ton. At the macro level, a framework agreement has been reached in the Sino-US tariff negotiations, but further relief will require more time for negotiations, and it is not excluded that there will be setbacks in between. On Thursday, the US PPI was lower than expected, the US dollar index fell significantly, and the market's expectation for a Fed rate cut in September has increased. Domestically, due to the endurance competition between China and the US, the introduction of domestic macro policies has been cautious, leaving a large policy space. In terms of the industry, the weekly output of the 5 major steel products decreased by 215,300 tons compared with last week, of which rebar production decreased by 108,900 tons, and hot-rolled coil production decreased by 53,900 tons. The decrease in output was more due to the reduction in electric furnace production. On the demand side, the weekly apparent demand further declined, with an average weekly decrease of 140,700 tons, among which the apparent demand for rebar still decreased more by 90,600 tons, and the seasonal demand decline was more obvious. In terms of inventory, although the overall inventory of the 5 major steel products was reduced, the rate of inventory reduction narrowed, and the social inventory of plates increased, so the inventory pressure is increasing. In summary, macro factors affect the emotional fluctuation of steel prices. On the fundamentals, steel demand has entered the off-season, and demand is declining. It is difficult for prices to reverse in the short term. In terms of profits, the current profits of steel mills are still good, and some coil mills may increase production next week. Therefore, the market is still worried that high supply in the off-season will lead to the speed of inventory accumulation. In the case of further deterioration of demand, the output of steel mills needs to be further reduced. After the decline in hot metal, the pressure on raw materials will also increase, and even further negative feedback may occur after the acceleration of inventory accumulation. Therefore, in June, before steel mills reduce production to a reasonable supply, it is still difficult for steel prices to reverse, and prices may further weaken and fall. In terms of procurement, it is recommended to focus on just-in-time procurement. In terms of institutional perspectives, as the geopolitical conflicts have limited impact on domestic steel products, with the deepening of the industry's off-season, it is expected that the demand for rebar will further decline. Meanwhile, the inventory, which is currently seeing a slowdown in destocking, will most likely transition from stabilizing to accumulating, which is in line with the off-season performance. Under this expectation, steel is expected to remain under pressure. At the same time, the contradiction between supply and demand is relatively limited, so it is expected to fluctuate in a range in the short term. In summary, steel prices have mainly remained stable and volatile in the near term and may gradually weaken in the long run. In terms of varieties, billet is recommended. Okay, feel free to leave your thoughts, questions, or any related inquiries in the comment box below. And if you found this video valuable, don't forget to follow us for more updates. See you next week.